Hey guys, so first of all, I'll just go ahead and say NVIDIA's a studio grade AI mic enhancement thing is a terrible, terrible feature. Like, I respect the efforts and what they're trying to do, but man, this feature really sucks, dude. It makes your voice sound ridiculous. Like I wish it worked well, but my goodness, it just does not work the way it's supposed to. Anyway, so I tried to pace myself and speak more slowly because also the feature makes my voice really, really loud, and I didn't want to have a really uncomfortable, audio experience, more so than it usually is. So, yeah, but that was not going well. So anyway, I received this kit. I didn't buy it retail. I received it from a person who had one, and I bought it off him, and he was very generous with the pricing and everything. And I think he was doing it, almost as a partially as a favor, just because he knows I also do tech content, and I'm really, really grateful for the fact that I had this kit now, and that he was willing to sell that to me. So thank you to him. Great guy. But this kit is some of the nicest RAM I have ever laid my eyes on in terms of just overall just the spec of it, and the aesthetic is good. It's pretty much the same as a regular XPG kit you'd see. I think they haven't changed the design all too much, but this kit is quite nicely built. It's better built than their previous Lancer kits. I can definitely say that much at least, because I did have Lancer RAM back in 2022, but this kit's build quality is better, and also cooling on this kit is way better. Cooling is actually really good right now in the XPG Lancer kits. I don't know what they did, but the cooling on this kit is just absurd. It's 35C now on my DIMMs. I think it's because I've been doing stuff on the computer for like the last 20 minutes. Yesterday, the ambient in my room was quite low, so that mixed with when the PC just booted up, the DIMMs were like 25 idle. So this kit can stay really cool, definitely. And part of why I'm making this video is because I've noticed that there is a consensus online that you can't run CKD kits on Z790 motherboards. Now, that technically is true with a lot of the BIOS revisions, but with the newest BIOS revisions, I think they did bake in some native, bypass mode support on pretty much most of these kits. I don't exactly know what ends up inhibiting bypass mode and why some people can't even run above JDEC, but I have heard about that. And I'm talking like some of the best overclockers, tuners on earth that try bypass mode and just can't get anything working. And that's not on them, that's just probably the PCB or whatever. And honestly, I have no idea why this kit works so well, but my goodness, dude, when I booted this kit up on my Apex, I was expecting problems. I just cleared CMOS for like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, swapped out kits, and then literally like booted up JDEC and tried booting up the same profile I had previously on my Clev kit, but with lower VDIM or lower VDD voltages, and yeah, it just booted up. Then I tried to stabilize something for daily use, ended up hitting some hurdles. So initially, what I thought was, guys, I thought that on my initial 8,000 attempts with this kit, I was like, oh, so it doesn't really help the IMC. The ICs aren't that strong. It's not really extending my overclocking range. It's not doing much for me. It's just going to be like, another one of those experiences where my IMC ends up, shitting the bed. I'm pretty dumbfounded. I tried 8200 and I was like, you know what? I'll type in some settings that I know should work, hypothetically, settings similar to ones that I had run before on this IMC for like brief periods, before they destabilized on the Lightning. So I was like, okay, let me just try out some basic 8200 settings, and let's try them at 1.425 volts, because this kit has really good volt scaling, because it's spec'd for like 9200, right? So I'm like, sure, this kit, I mean, it doesn't have the CKD at its disposal, but it's still 6400 JDEC IC. So these ICs are some of the best you can get in the market, and yeah, 1.425 volts on this terrible IMC. MC rating 77 on my Encore. This kit is running insanely well. Like, to put in perspective, guys, it's running at 1.375 TX, right? And that's V drooping now down to 1.35. 1.425 on VDD2 and 1.25 SA, and just 1.425 on both of the DRAM rails. And my goodness, man, it's running, pretty much perfectly. So some very, very basic timings, some very, very basic settings. You guys probably aren't too surprised seeing some of these values. Just very basic stuff. Just you know really run of the mall, and I mean this is not accurate, so I'll show you the accurate versions of the timing, so you can see the you know just the regular stuff. If you want to have a look at the, well, you can see it here and you can see it there. This one as well. Some of these I didn't adjust, so I've left some of the miscellaneous timings auto. So and yeah, so RTL's trained in not super well. 73, 72, and 66 and 67. So yeah, RTL timings for me usually do kind of help you determine how well the training went for a particular configuration. But at this point, like I've seen stable OCs not have the tightest RTL training, or like not having the, not having both RTLs matching and stuff. I think for now I'm not too worried, to be completely honest. I was really skeptical when I first got this working because I was really shocked that my A03 Encore can actually run 8200 with my IMC. I'm pleasantly surprised because I think this Encore probably then is about as strong as the Lightning. Maybe, I don't know, not really. I guess not really, because the Lightning could do 8200 with the clev sticks. I mean, for brief periods, yes, but you could. So I'm considering like switching the Lightning back into my test bench and then just trying the kit on there as well and seeing what I can do. Just out of curiosity, I am getting a new CPU. My friend Morgan sold his, well, he sold some of his stuff and he moved to AMD, just for power efficiency reasons. And he's getting an RMA sample back for his very slightly degraded 4900K. Honestly, his chip wasn't so bad, but it's like it kind of does just suck. So he was like, you know what, might as well RMA it. So when he gets that back, I should be buying that off him, and then I should hopefully be getting a much stronger IMC in return, because I don't think it can get much worse than my current one. I think the one I have right now is probably one of the worst IMCs you can pull, unless you get like a straight up faulty chip, which is like, that's unfortunate. But anyway, yeah. So these settings are running right now. These are, to me, I wouldn't mind dailying these settings, but I'm hoping to get like maybe 8400 out of the new i9 that I'm getting. And if I had arrow leg, I probably could be approaching 9000. Speaking to a good friend of mine on Discord that is quite an expert arrow leg, he's not running above 8600, mainly for reliability reasons, but also being that 9000 does begin to give issues as well, just like with Raptor Lake, when you get to the retrain stability, you know, yeah, like once you get to these very high data rates, the IMCs do begin to struggle quite a bit. Something happens on AMD too, actually. AMD also, once you push the IMC to its limit, it begins to actually have retrain stability problems too. So I'm not entirely sure if this retrain stability thing is just a DDR5 thing, but I don't know, man. It just seems like once you get to like the limit of a motherboard's PCB, that's when you begin seeing problems. And I guess ICs do help as well. So if you have good ICs that are not so strenuous on the memory controller, then it does help things. But I mean, it's DDR5, right? So these stress tests weren't done like super far apart. I ran the first batch. Honestly, when I ran this, I wasn't expecting it to pass. I was like, this is not gonna pass. I mean, I was just tuning between I had a problem with like previous profile that I had, and I was playing Counter-Strike 2, and I was like, I didn't. I think I just locked in some random settings, got them partially stable, ran CS2, was fine, had like one crash, and then I was like, yeah, I think it's unstable. Found that it was unstable, like very unstable. Tried something else on 8000. Um, Sort of got it half stable, and then like kind of didn't bother too much with it. And then when I went to go, restabilize that later that night, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get something like properly stable. And yeah, this is currently what ran, and yeah, I was pretty surprised, man. I really wasn't expecting this to run. I was really shocked. By the way, this is an American time, because I have my computer in American time right now. But this test was run in my evening time, like my night time, and I was really not expecting this to pass. I was kind of like, it's probably gonna fail. Ended up passing. I was like, well, it's not gonna be stable, so I just started the game. It felt fine. I was like, well, it's probably gonna, you know it's probably going to destabilize tomorrow. Okay, sure thing. So the next day, I end up, at some point in the day, I end up stress testing the same profile. I think this will, wait, hold on. I think I'm confused. This one would be it. Next day? Later that day. I think it was later, yeah, later in the day. So I don't know at what point. I actually don't recall like when or how, what time I tested this, but like whatever. At some point I ended up stress testing this as well. So this was the same settings, just I expected it to fail, the retrain. Ended up passing again. I was really, really surprised, guys. Like I was really, really surprised. I was genuinely not expecting this Y cruncher to run. Especially not this consistently as well, like with these kinds of speeds. I mean, these speeds do point to pretty good stability, but like, I was like, there's no way. And then I was like, well, it's surely gonna fail a TM5 though. Like, that's gonna happen. It's gonna error in, 5 cycles or whatever. Ends up passing 2, and I'm just like, okay, well, it's gonna be terrible in gaming. I go play Counter-Strike, and I'm just playing insane. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. I guess it's currently stable. So, I mean, we'll see how long this lasts for. I hope it at least gives me till the next CPU comes in, and I can swap out this terrible i9 3900K and get a hopefully much better sample with a much better IMC is all I'm hoping for, and be able to keep 80 to 100 stable at least, or even shoot for 84. 84 would be insane, and I think if I get 84 on this motherboard, it probably can do 86 on the Lightning. This kit is absurd. This kit is like, I don't know if this kit was like pre-binned or like pre-selected, but these ICs are insane. I think on Arrow Lake, man, if I had like a, I don't know, like a Taichi OC formula or something, no, actually, that's not a good idea. That board is not so reliable from what I've heard. Let's say a Unify X, okay? No, actually, I don't want to use MSI boards. Okay, an Apex, right? An Apex. So, Z790 Apex and a pretty good 35K sample. By the way, I see a lot of guys using 265Ks. I respect it, man. Look, the 265K is a good deal. But, dude, like, the IMC quality is going to be there. Like, you guys know this. i9s always have more reliable IMCs. It's like, AMD don't pre-bin IO dies. Intel do, like, make sure that the silicon that the way they bin their CPUs, the silicon, the i9 is always going to have a better IMC overall. Like, you're going to find a good, like, i7, i5 every now and again, but, I mean, it's few and far between. Usually, i9, 285, or the 285K, the Core Ultra 9 is going to have the better sample IMC, and I think if I had to test Arrow Lake, I would want to have a 285K. I was hoping and praying someone would somehow come along on Carbonite locally and just sell a combo with the 285K. Never happened. Wasn't super surprised. If it does come along, I'm buying one because I'm going to test it out and I'm going to try and run Arrow Lake. But yeah, I'm not paying retail, so that's not happening. Anyway. And yeah, I still stand by my normal stress test methodology. I don't think that you have to run more than an hour of VT3 both ways, off the cold boots, and just 40 to 50 cycles of PCB destroyer. But look, if your OC does destabilize in 2 weeks, like that's what you have to test for. So the issue we're looking for, guys, is reliability. It's not about how long you can run a stress test for in any given period. The issue that people aren't seeming to understand is with regards to this whole like Corey 24-hour thing. So the reason why, okay, guys, I have to explain it like this, right? I once tested Koru, not for 24 hours, given 12 hours, right? But this 8000 profile on my Lightning was like running with the same broken TWTRS and TWTRL values that I had talked about in another video. So this OC was running like extremely strenuous settings on the IMC that definitely weren't going to be able to pass long term. I end up getting a boot where it's running perfectly fine and it's running Karu forever and it's like running smoothly and everything's good. And guess what happens? Like within like literally one day after a cold, one single day after a cold boot of 12 hours of Karu, 12 hours of Karu, I do one cold boot, and it does not pass Karu for more than like, I don't know, like 2 minutes. The problem that we're seeing is not related to the duration. Like, I literally passed Karu for 12 hours. The next day I booted, and it could not pass Karu for even a single, like, a single period of like 10 minutes. It literally crashed like within, not crashed, but like errored within like 2 minutes. Like it was almost instant. It was actually like insane how badly the stability degraded between the one day I tested and like the next day. What you guys don't seem to be understanding is like, and I'm not talking to like some of the guys who know what they're doing and everything. I mean more like those who are on the fence about it. The problem is that you're not dealing with the issue where any like a certain given stress test or a certain length of stress test or whatever is going to give you some magical insight into how stable your OC is. The problem with these IMCs is that you have to test them long term. It's about the long term reliability of the retrain. It's not about like, oh, this OC passed 10 hours of VT3, it's stable now. It literally doesn't work like that. Like, look, you can pass 10 hours of VT3, and you know what? You probably are gonna have a rock solid OC. Definitely. Like, if you pass 10 hours of VT3, or like, God forbid, you run your PC for, at that, at 300 watts for 24 hours straight, okay, whatever. You do you. Like, if you do that, cool. Like, I'm very sure that your OC is probably really, really stable, because, I mean, 24 hours of that would be, like, crazy, right? But the problem is, you could run into a situation where literally cold booting your PC, completely just messes up the. And it's not timings, because the thing is, we've been adjusting everything. My entire config is adjusted. Besides a few timings like the miscellaneous timings that don't even like change between boots, right? And stuff like RTLs don't change between boots. I have a lot of my training algorithms tuned in, guys. A lot of them I've got tuned on my board. And thanks to another friend of mine, I've got a batch of VREFs and RTTs and ODTs all dialed in. Everything is tuned. Every single setting that could be tuned is tuned. Like every single training setting, every single VREF, it's all tuned. It's all locked in. So by this point, the only logical explanation is that there is something that we can't really see that doesn't change value-wise, but that like it's something regarding the electrical conditions of the board, and something I've been saying for the last maybe 2-3 years now. Like the electrical conditions of the board at a given time that are influenced by factors I frankly don't even understand myself. And sometimes temperature is also a factor to some degree, but the electrical conditions that facilitate a stable DDR5 configuration, like they can literally shift like just a tiny bit between cold boots, or like let's say between cold boots that range over a period of weeks. So once you hit that 2-week mark, all of a sudden you've had enough shift in like that electrical the electrical conditions where you have that small gap of stability, where like Aces had that chart, where they show where the interference occurs, and like you have that small target to like thread your electrical like signal through. And basically, if your settings don't facilitate the signal passing through without receiving interference, or like you can't avoid you can't avoid the necessary amount of interference to get that signal to not error, then you will error. That's what we're seeing. So it's really, really hard to test for, and it's hard to explain as well, because it seems like a lot of people don't understand what they're seeing when they have those reboot errors. It's not about what your setup looks like right now. Your electrical stability could be perfectly fine, like for a day or two, like completely fine. But all of a sudden, 2 weeks from now, I don't know, man. I don't know what happens. Maybe it's because of the Earth's magnetic field. Who knows? Like, bro, I'm being serious. Like, DDR5 tunes are so sensitive when we're dealing with speeds that aren't easily facilitated within your motherboard's capacity. So like if your motherboard's traces are good for X amount of of handling X amount of electrical interference and keeping them away from the data lines, like you can expect a certain speed almost guaranteed, right? But as you get towards, sorry, I pressed K on my keyboard. As you get towards the higher speeds, you are going to see these issues with regards to destabilizing due to interference. It's all it is. It's interference. It's literally like your motherboard traces have to keep the interference away, and you have a certain amount of gap in that interference line where you pretty much can like get your signal through. And once you start interfering And once you have that signal distortion, all of a sudden you're screwed, and that's it. And there you go, done, finished. That's it. Like once your OC begins to suffer that distortion, man, it's over. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't even really go back and change. Like you can change settings and try and get it stable again, and you may or may not end up with settings that can last long term, where they're good for one set of conditions and good for another set of conditions and good for like the next set of conditions. And basically, as the eye shifts, your settings that you have are like good for a bunch of different conditions. And that's the ideal case. That's what you want. You want to have settings that are viable in a shifting scope of interference. So like you want to have settings that can run through that small gap to not experience distortion, and you want to have that in a broader range of conditions. And that's how you're going to keep your stable OC going for weeks and months. But what we're seeing at the higher speeds, unless you have really good components, unless you bind, or unless you have a speed that is for the components you have easily achievable, like you're not going to have long-term stability, and that's the problem we're seeing. So yeah, that's my rant, guys, with regards to that again. But anyway, key takeaways, like CKD is fine. If you have Z790, it's all good. Bypass mode works fine depending on the motherboard and the BIOS. And don't be scared of CUDIMM kits, they're fine. Some of them might not work well, but like I said, mine works pretty well right now, at least. And yeah, guys, that's about it.